What's the most scared you've ever been in your life? I was 19, driving back from work after having a few drinks. Was definitely tipsy. I ended up being stuck in a roadblock where they were breathalyzing every single car. My knees were weak and I couldn't see. I was so terrified I was going to be put in jail. This was in South Africa, where it's known that police are also sexually violent at night, and holding cells are not safe places to be, which made the fear even worse. When it was my turn to be breathalyzed, the cop asked where I was coming from, and I said from work. He asked if I'd been drinking, and I lied and said nope because I'm not allowed to drink at work. He ended up letting me go without breathalyzing me. I never drank and drove again after that. Story number 2. I walked home drunk in the 90s a lot. Went home alone with strangers a lot too. Shared all kinds of drinks with all kinds of people, took all kinds of drugs. Once had to run the entire length of the Foxton Bridge at midnight because my car got stranded and I had to walk home. Me and my brothers like to scare each other randomly out of nowhere. We got creative a few years ago. We are almost at that stage when we are on constant alert. Nope, none of that. Right now, I am in the process of caring for my mother in the last of her years. It's just me and her, for various reasons. I can't imagine my life without my mum. We talk every day. I know that one day I will send her a message out of habit and it won't get answered. I have been through this grief when Dad died. I wasn't sure I would make it through that, but I did. Barely. Now I have to prepare to go through it all again, but without her this time. She has been preparing me for a few years now. I know what to do. I just have no idea how I'm going to do it. Story number 3. I was a brand new registered nurse/new employee. They told me to go and work in the emergency room today, just so I could be familiar with what the hospital does. Shortly after my shift started in the ER, a 20-year-old guy was brought in from a horrific car accident. The emergency room doctor pointed to me and said, "Put 4 IVs in, 1 in each extremity, and open them up." The first 10 seconds I was petrified, knowing that this could be life or death, whether I got these in for this guy. Then my brain kicked in. Dude, you're excellent at starting IVs. Excellent at this. Do your thing and don't worry. Within no time, 4-liter bags of lactated ringers were flowing like a stream. Then I went and helped the doctor intubate the person. He was having a difficult time because of the trauma. I did what he said, and we got the guy breathing freely. The ER team worked on the guy, and we saved him. It was front page news the next day about the accident. The doctor looked at me afterward and said, "You've been doing this shit a while?" "Yeah." "About 45 minutes, I told him. He just looked at me and laughed. We didn't know each other. After that, I was never afraid to do anything while practicing. I felt that I was there for a purpose, and I carried it forward. Story number 4. April 4th, 2020. I had been to the ER twice since COVID shut down with my 4-month-old because something was wrong. The doctor sent us away both times, chastising me for bringing my baby into the hospital. The third time, I demanded blood work. He had a kidney infection and was septic. He underwent urgent surgery to remove the infection from his kidney by inserting a tube. We refer to it as a nephrostomy. He woke up from surgery, they brought him into the room, and I got to hold him. About 15 minutes later, I couldn't rouse him. His vitals went off. Sternum rubs and ice to his neck didn't wake him up. He coded. I had to call the code on my own baby. That was absolutely the most scared I have ever been in my whole life. The first nurse that came in was useless. She froze and I had to work on him. I work in healthcare, but I'm not a doctor or nurse, so I don't know what I'm doing in a code. I don't remember much about that time except for the useless nurse and the fear. The whole time I was riding the edge of vomiting and passing out from fear. I guess a team came in and fixed the situation. He's a healthy 4-year-old now. He is down 1 kidney, 12% function, but you only need 1. We are so lucky. Story number 5. 4-ish years ago, I was hugely addicted to any kind of stimulant drug. Cocaine, methamphetamine, Adderall, and I would use downers when that was all I could get. I was dating my connect, and one night he was supposed to come over, but we got in a huge fight on the phone. He said he wasn't coming, and I begged him to come so we could talk. I lived in a large apartment complex with slim to no guest parking, so he parked across the street and walked into the complex. I was getting out of the shower when I heard a sound like a pan being left in the oven and warping as it heated up. I went into my room, window open, and heard a commotion outside. I had a horrible feeling in the pit of my stomach. I went outside with no shoes and pajamas on. He was laying on the pavement, bleeding, and neighbors surrounding him, calling the cops. He had been shot and robbed right outside my apartment. He was in the hospital for almost a week, and when he came out, he had a walker and a feeding tube. The day after it happened, I came home from being in the hospital all night to his blood on the ground outside. I had the same horrible feeling. I sat in my bed with my bedroom door open and got high to try to numb out the crazy thoughts I was having. I sat there paralyzed for hours, staring at the open door, knowing there was someone else in the house. My heart pounded out of my chest. I had extreme paranoia that whoever shot him was coming back for me. I started sobbing from fear, but still couldn't move. It's like my eyes were cemented to the door and my body to the bed. The most terrified and violated I have ever felt in my life. Disclaimer, he is okay and still alive today. Nobody was in the house. It was drug-fueled paranoia coupled with PTSD. I will have 4 years sober in November this year. Story number 6. My son has all his shots. My husband went out of town to my in-laws' cabin, and we are not sure where my son contracted it, but he got rotavirus. I worked the night they got home, and my other son was puking but not crazy sick. My middle son would wake up and throw up behind his bed and go back to sleep because he didn't want to get up. My husband was dealing with my youngest, and he went to work before my middle child got up. My mom took over until I got home, but as soon as my middle child got up, my mom called me as I was driving home. My mom told me my middle child looked really awful, and she was scared, so I got home and he looked like a skeleton in the face. I grabbed him up and took him to the ER. They had to give him several boluses of NS, and he was close to getting hypovolemic shock. They stabilized him and sent him to a children's hospital I worked at that was not as close. The place he was at only had a PEDS ER, and he looked so bad I was not going to drive the 30 minutes. He looked way better, and they transported him by ambulance, but they did not have a bed in the PICU, so he had to go onto the floor. When he got there, he lost over 2,000 cc of fluid. I weighed his diapers, and he was starting to look gray with sunken eyes that had black circles around them. I was sleep deprived because I worked the night before, but I called the nurse and told her I was weighing the diapers, and this damn 16 cc per hour shit isn't replacing what he needs. She rolled her eyes and tried to explain to me what the IV was. I said, "Get me the doctor." She called the doctor, and the doctor told her to put him on gut rest and nothing by mouth. I was probably not very nice, but I said, gut rest on a dehydrated child that already lost 2,000 cc and he is getting only 16 cc an hour? Absolutely not. My son was keeping water down at that point, so my husband already brought water, and we were taking sips and counting, taking drinks and counting. The counting was so we could pace him and see if it came up. We got him to a point where he started looking better, and he was able to fall asleep. I stayed up watching him, looking over his labs, and in the morning, the doctor came in. I told her the overnight doctor wanted him on gut rest, and they were not counting his output in diapers. He could have gone into shock and died because most people genuinely want to listen to their doctors. I told them they needed to reevaluate their protocols because this could have ended badly. They looked at me funny and walked out. I forgot to tell them I worked in the NICU downstairs because I hadn't slept. I was thinking just of my son, so they probably thought I was a type A parent that does what I want. My husband and I switched places at the hospital 3 days later so I could go home for a bit, and they decided to discharge him. But they were worried to discharge him home. My husband said, "Don't worry. My wife kept him alive here, and she also works in the NICU downstairs." The doctor and nurse who had my son that day, but also the night he was admitted, had these looks on their faces. My husband said the nurse looked really worried. I said, "Good. I hope they think the next time they see a kid like him." Moral of the story. If they are not getting anything near what is coming out in IV form, question everything. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's story, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more incredible Reddit tales. Share your thoughts or your own experiences in the comments below. I love hearing from you all. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring those amazing stories.